Your commissioner, he works from the toilet. He works from his bedroom. He works in front of his wife. And he puts it all together in his office. It's the league.
Does that look fake to you, Cody? Does that look fake to you? You tell me, Cody. If any of you don't know what I'm talking about, Cody changed his team name this week to Pat's Stash is Fake. And frankly, my mustache is offended by that. And I'm offended by that because this mustache is real. It's here to stay through the rest of the season, maybe longer, I don't know. But really, if I see you in person, Cody, I'll let you even touch it. I'll let you comb it. I'll let you style it however you please because it is real. It is real. I'm sick of all this negativity, Cody. But you got the win this week, so I can't be mad at you. You got 2 wins. You're 3 games out of the playoffs, so you're right in the hunt this week. And this week we are at our halfway point. We are 7 weeks through the season. Exciting times. Everybody now, I think, is still in it. But let's go back and look at last night, the Monday night game. Nick, who was the high point leader going into it, ended up almost losing to my wife Liz with the New England Patriots, getting a couple turnovers, more like 5 turnovers. All they needed was that touchdown out of the back of the end zone, and Nick would have not been high point this week. But congratulations to Nick. He not only got the win, he's also going to be joining me for the high point conversation this week, and it's going to be a fun one. I cannot wait for it. But again, we're halfway through the season at this point. Let's recap the Week 7 matchups. So I'm going to jump right into the matchup of the week between number 1 Just Joshin and number 3 Mac and Devontae's Inferno. Tanya versus Mac. It was an interesting matchup, and neither team performed, both scoring under 100 points. Tanya, who was in first place going into Week 7, only got 77 points. We can round it up and say 78. But still, Tanya, guess what that gets you? It gets you the horse's ass low point of the week. Hit the music. That's right, Tanya. I didn't think I'd ever say you were going to be a low point, but you ended up being the low point this week. You got absolutely no production from Will Fuller, who went off just last week. He only got you 1 point. And 78 points? That's very low. But I have no room to talk. I only got 89 points to Bryce's 136. That was the next matchup. 2 playoff teams. Bryce was in second at the time. I was in third, or could have been role reversal. But Bryce ended up beating me, the mustache, 136 to 89, jolting Bryce into first place. I do have to complain a little bit. I picked up Chase Edmonds off the waiver wire in thinking that David Johnson wasn't going to play, and sure enough, I didn't put him in the lineup. So shame on me. I'll take the full blame for that. I just want to let Bryce know that if I would have played Diggs and Chase Edmonds, it would have been a different story, and I would have been your high point this week. Next matchup, we had what we talked about earlier, Nick and Mount Minshevius versus Liz and Show Me Your TDs. Nick ended up pulling out the win by 1 point. Nick started for Jacksonville Jaguars. Normally that's a recipe for disaster, but Nick found a way to come out with a big win this week, knocking off Liz, who yet again has struggled to get a win and put up points. She's getting everybody's tough competition. She still leads the league by over 100 points total throughout the year so far, and she finds herself now tied for last place at 2-5. So tough season for Liz. I hear about it all the time. It's going to be tough going into pregnancy week next week. But yeah, she stayed up that whole game Monday night thinking she was going to get a comeback, but Nick ended up pulling out the win, and we're going to talk with Nick later here on the show. Next matchup is a battle of 2 brothers. It's Cody and Pat's Mustache is Fake. It's not fake. Versus Colt and the Me Homies. Basically a repeat from last year's championship game. This year, Cody ended up getting the better of his brother again, beating him 105 to 99. Cody gets another win. He's now 2-5 as well with Nick and with Liz. Basically 3 games out of the playoff hunt. And last but not least, we had Ashley in couples therapy versus Sean and What Would Deshaun Do. Sean pulls out a huge win. Nobody got their high projections this week. As a matter of fact, everybody it seemed to struggle this week except for Liz, Nick, and Bryce. Everybody this week struggled, but Sean ended up finding a way to win this week. So congratulations, Sean. You're one game out of the playoff hunt, it appears. So if we look at the playoff standings now, halfway through the season, Bryce, who was last place last year, yes, I'm saying that correctly. Bryce, who was in last place, and the Chubby Chasers is now in first place with 5-2 and 924 total points. Next, we have Mac and Devontae's Inferno, who started off 0-2, is now 5-2. He's about 10 points behind Bryce in second place. In third, also with 5-2, is Tanya and Just Joshin with 872 points. And in fourth place, rounding out the playoffs, if they were today, is myself, the Mustache, at 848 points. Next, in fifth, we have Sean, and what would Deshaun do at 4-3? We have in sixth, Couples Therapy and Ashley at 3-4, only 2 games back. And then 7 through 10, Liz in seventh place with a 2-5 record. Colton and Me Homies with the 2-5 record. Pat's Mustache's Fake and Cody with the 2-5 record, and Nick, who got the high point this week, with the 2-5 record. So really at this point, I know I said last week that they could be almost out of the playoff hunt. Everybody's in it now. Everybody's in it now at this point. And man, it's going to be an exciting last 7 weeks to the season. So let's jump right into this week's interview for High Point. It's Nick with Mount Minsuvius. It was a fun interview with Nick. Let's check it out and see what Nick had to say about almost losing to Liz in the fourth quarter of a blowout Monday Night Football game.
And joining me on the BNC Refuse Hotline today, it's Nick with Mount Minsuvius with our High Point. Nick, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm feeling great, man. Great. Fresh off a victory. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, but Nick, how tight were your butt cheeks last night going into the fourth quarter against Liz? She was coming back with her New England defense.
It's tough. I went on a date with the fiance, early celebration for a victory that I shot was going to come in for sure. And then we're there, and I look up and I see Dan Darnold, Mono Boy, throw another pick. And I was like, I wonder how close this actually is.
Oh, man, it got close. I don't think Liz has stayed up this late in weeks. And she stayed up to watch this game thinking she'd be able to pull off an upset against you. So, I mean, it was exciting in our household. Probably the most exciting Monday night blowout I've watched in a while.
No, definitely. And as far as Liz, you hate to see it. She's been in the top scoring matchup 5 out of the 7 weeks, 4 losses out of those top 5. So that's tough.
Yeah, trust me, I live with her. I know it's tough. I hear about it all the time. She has over 100 more points than everybody else in the league and finds herself in last place. Well, by the records anyway. But Nick, you started 4 Jacksonville Jaguars in your lineup, and you still were able to pull off the W. That's normally a recipe for a blowout or a disaster. What made you go with Jacksonville players?
Oh, a lot of buys. I've been struggling picking up guys off the wire, and the Jags happen to be on the up and up. Plus, they played Cincinnati, so that helps.
That does help. That did help me out in my sports gambling pick against them. I thought Cincinnati was going to pull that one off. But, hey, how much do you want to punch me in the face week in and week out when you find yourself the low point of the week or you find yourself in last place?
I love the motivation. Anything I can use, pushing me forward.
Yeah, well, your high point this week, your last place technically still in the standings, just when we look at points and record. You really think you have a chance to bring yourself back into this race, I think, right?
You look at that leaderboard, and realistically, we're only 3 games out of first place right now.
That is true. 7. We're halfway through the season, so 7 more games to go. Bryce was dogging on you a little bit. He really wants you to have that license plate cover coming up on your wedding next summer. Are you going to really try to not get that license plate cover?
Well, so let me just start by saying I think we're all happy that Bryce didn't win the high point this week.
True.
He's stressing our ears a little bit for that. I don't know what kind of Mickey Mouse clubhouse he's running over there, but we have iPhones and AirPods to use here.
Exactly. I don't think I've ever done an interview so bad before with his phone connection. It was terrible. Yours sounds good, so congratulations on having a good cell phone.
Oh, thanks. We pride ourselves in having the best equipment here.
Speaking of Bryce, it looks like you play him next week. So last place versus first place. So, I mean, really, you can put your mouth to work right now and talk a little trash against him.
Yeah, for me, it's just taking it another week at a time. It's just another game. And realistically, this week I looked as I was playing against the best team in the league against Liz. I mean, statistically speaking with points, she's there.
That's true. That's true. And truthfully, I'm rooting for you next week against Bryce because I don't want him in the top spot. I would personally like him in last place all over again, but the way it sits, he's in first. But I don't know if you looked at the name changes this last week, but it looks like Cody changed his name to Pat's Mustache is Fake. I saw you just the other weekend. Would you say my mustache is fake?
I've heard this theory and it's out there. I'm going to need a little pull test. I need it there soon, just for a little proof.
Well, just ask Christine. She knows all about my mustache, so I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. But so as I look at your lineup, like I said, you had a whole bunch of Jacksonville players. You still have Will Dissly on your bench. He's out for the season. I don't know if you know that, but are you researching the waiver wire this week?
Yeah, I've got a couple moves up my sleeve. I tried to ditch him last week. Unfortunately, all my moves got taken ahead of me, so he's there.
He's there. Well, I expect you to ditch him from your lineup this week. I know I wanted you to play him multiple weeks, and you took my advice and did, and that came to backfire on you. So I'll personally apologize to you over the phone on playing Will Dissly. But hopefully you can pick up somebody to take his spot and put you in victory formation next week against Bryce.
Yep, there's going to be some big moves out there. A lot of teams are on fire sales. You got Denver getting rid of Emmanuel Sanders and the Falcons unloading Sanu. So there's going to be some moves.
Yeah, going to be a lot of moves. I'm stuck with a whole bunch of bye players this week, so I'm frantically changing up my lineup. But last question I ask everybody is, what would you like to say to the league now that you're sitting at the top as a high point?
I just got to look at my other fellow 2 and 5ers, and I got to wish us all the best of luck moving forward. Big moves by everybody. Big win by Cody. I was following that one closely.
Absolutely.
So the best of luck to us all. I hope to see us at the top 4 at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, everybody now I feel like is in it with 7 weeks to go, so it'll make a fun final stretch run for everybody. Well, Nick, I appreciate you taking the time today to do this interview. Congratulations on the high point. I'm glad I don't get to call you out for low point this week. So thank you.
Hey, pleasure's all mine. Appreciate it.
All right. You take care.
Hey, Nick, thanks for doing that interview. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Hey, as some house cleaning, heads up. Next week, we're going to be on site at the hospital. That's right. Guess what? Water's breaking. It's time to have a baby. So we're going to come to you live next week from the hospital, and we're going to find out boy or girl. Well, we already know it's going to be a girl, but it's going to be an exciting week. But now, let's check out the Week 8 preview.
It's the Week 8 preview brought to us by SportsEyeTest.com. Well, it's another great week of games. Week 8, everybody. We're on the second half of the season, and we got awesome matchups for you. First matchup I'm going to highlight is myself, the mustache, in 4th place versus Ashley in couples therapy in 6th place. At this point, I'm borderline playoff team, and Ashley's borderline hoping to make the playoffs, so that's going to be a tough matchup for both of us. Both of us trying to get back in the win column, pull our lives back together, and kick off the second half of the season the right way. The next matchup is Mac and Devontae's Inferno, who's now in 2nd, versus his sister-in-law and Liz in Show Me Your TDs. Liz consistently is putting up points, Is she going to keep that trend going and maybe get a win against Mac, knocking him down a little bit? I don't know. All I know is Liz is going to be in the hospital monitoring her lineup, so Mac, you better set it. Next matchup, we have Cody and Pat's Stash is Fake versus Tanya and Just Joshin. Tanya's now in third place. She's looking for a rebound win, coming off of a low point victory last week. Cody, coming off of a big win, is looking to get back into the playoff hunt. At this point, the projections show pretty high for both teams, so it'll be interesting if Cody can find himself back in the playoff contention. Next matchup, we have Colt and the Me Homies versus Sean and What Would Deshaun Do? Sean's itching. Sean is itching for a playoff position. He wants to knock off Colt. Colt just wants to get a win again. I don't think he's seen a win in a few weeks. So Colt's going to be itching for a win. He's going to be itching for a quarterback. Did he find a quarterback to fulfill his quarterback needs now with Patrick Mahomes out for a couple weeks? I don't know. We'll see what happens. And last but not least, the matchup of the week. Coming off of his high point victory, Nick and Mount Vinchuvius versus the number one player in the league, Bryce and the Chubby Chasers. If we scroll up to the matchup, looks like Nick's still going to go with Gardner Minshew at his quarterback. If Bryce gets a performance like he did from Aaron Rodgers last week, he's going to have a good week ahead of him. Not to mention, Cortland Sutton's going to be the number one receiver for the Denver Broncos, now with recently traded Emmanuel Sanders. Nick got Juju Smith-Schuster back in his lineup coming off of a bye, so he took a Jacksonville player out of his starting lineup. Oh no, he still has Shark in his flex position at this point, but he did remove his Jacksonville defense in favor of his team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So in this matchup, first versus last, is he going to knock Bryce off of his mountain? We will see, everybody. It's going to be a fun week 8. Again, I look forward to speaking to you all next week at the hospital. It's going to be an on-site show. So we will all chat then. I hope everybody has a great week 8.